Hello. Today in writing, we're going to talk about how to punctuate dialogue correctly. You will see this page that would be an excellent reference for you to use in order to practice punctuating your dialogue. When I say dialogue, that means that it's the conversation characters have in books. And it's a way that we show that the characters are speaking in books. So not only as readers do we need to recognize that, but as writers, we need to make sure that we're incorporating this into our stories. So today we're going to think about the quotations are the words being spoken. And when I use the phrase speaker tag, it tells you who was talking. So there are a few rules that we need to follow when we punctuate dialogue correctly. Punctuating dialogue can be pretty tricky. So rule number one, we use quotation marks around what is said aloud. So you might see in our examples, only what is being said by that character gets those quotation marks. Rule number two, periods and commas always go inside quotation marks. Rule number three, question marks, exclamation marks, and dashes go inside the quotation marks when they are part of what is said. So let's take a look at three different models of ways that you can use speaker tags and quotation marks in your writing. So I used examples from this story, A Big Red Lollipop, and thinking about the characters here, they used great examples. The author used different kinds of speaker tags in different orders to make the writing a little bit more interesting. So here's our model, speaker tag, then we have a comma, and then the quote. So it would look like this. Sana screams, I want to go too. Notice it tells you who's saying it, then there's a comma, and then we have our quotation marks. And notice that it starts where she's screaming and it ends. And if you notice, the exclamation point is right before the quotation mark. So this always has to go after. Model two. We have our quote and then our speaker tag, so it can go in the other order. Example is, what's going on out here, says Ami. So if you notice, this might be the most common way we use or see speaker tags. We start our quote, we end our quote, and we have our speaker tag. Another example I used that has a comma instead of an ending punctuation mark. I'm mad, comma, screams Sana. So we want to make sure that we have our quotation marks and then the comma goes right before the quote. And then you have your speaker tag. Lastly, we have our third example where you have our speaker tag in the middle. So you're going to have a quote that begins, then we have our speaker tag, and we have a quote that ends. And we have a comma breaking up these pieces. So let's see an example. See, says Ami, she didn't eat all of it. What do you notice here? Well, we have our speaker tags. We have our question mark right before our dialogue or our quotation mark. And then we have says Ami. We put a period here and then we have to make sure that we capitalize this very big first letter. And then she speaks again. So we put our quotes, our period, and then we end our quotes here. So for today's practice, you are going to use this page to practice putting in our commas and our quotation marks in the right spot here to show what each person said. And it says to add quotes to show what each person said here is going to go at the bottom. Okay, all right, so you do not need to do the right on piece at the bottom here, but we are going to do numbers 1 through 10, and you are going to complete this activity in the box. So make sure you read the directions closely. All right, and then we will make sure that we're trying this in our own writing.